Welcome back to the Rebel Tribe podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Melodian, and today we're diving into a conversation that blends resilience, reinvention, and the kind of lived wisdom that only comes from walking through something life changing. My guest today is Nicole Austin, the founder of Soul Glow Guru, a holistic wealth, holistic wealth. There we go. A holistic wellness base
I like that.
and holistic wealth. How's that? But
Right.
it's built on the belief that healing should be accessible and affordable and rooted in compassion. So, Nicole isn't just teaching wellness, she's actually lived it. She's navigated the complicated, misunderstood world of alpha gal syndrome, which I confess I didn't really know what that was until I met
Yeah.
Nicole and did some research and read her book. But it's an allergy. Okay. And it flipped her life upside down and forced her to rebuild her health, her identity, and her entire approach to living. And now she's turning that journey into purpose. She is the author of the brand new book, The Alpha Gal with Alpha Gal Syndrome. And I'll tell you, I read it, and it is a raw, insightful look into what it means to advocate for yourself, reclaim
Oh,
your
yeah.
health, and rise into a version of your life that you didn't see it coming. So today
Yeah.
we're talking about the promise, the process versus the promise, how healing
Yeah.
isn't just about the outcome, but about who you become along the way. And I already know this conversation is going to be exactly what someone out there needs to hear. So, Nicole, welcome to the Rebel Tribe. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I am absolutely so excited to be here, and thank you for reading the book. I'm very proud of it, and it was a very vulnerable thing to do. So it's definitely been an exciting journey, but also you got to really step into being. I can do this. I can do this.
So, for people who are meeting you for the first time, who
Yeah.
is Nicole in this season of your life?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm a mother. I have 4 children, two of which are teenagers. And so that says a lot. But me, I'm a mother. yeah, I am a entrepreneur, a wellness educator, I would say. I'm an advocate for holistic health. And I am I'm going to say a glow getter. I am not afraid to step up and take the lead and create change in the world.
Cool. And what led
Yeah.
you into the world of holistic health? How did Soul Glow Guru? Because that's what attracted me to you when I saw. I was like, Soul Glow Guru. What the heck is that?
Yeah.
I had to go look, and then I started reading all your stuff. I was like, oh, she's cool. I want to meet her.
Thank
So
you.
what led you there?
Yeah,
What led you
so
there?
like 7 years ago, I was in a position of looking for a job. This is true story, and I found a ad on Indeed, went to work for a chiropractor, and had no knowledge of chiropractic other than I had some vertigo at one point, which I now know was just dizziness from the alpha gal syndrome. We'll go back to that, but got this job at the chiropractor. I've worked in it for the past 7 years. I'd leveled up in the ways that I could, and I'd got to acknowledge how, holistic health was changing people's lives. So I would see people come in pain and get better. But then also, I grew up with a grandmother who was very much rooted in vitamins and herbal remedies. And so, anytime someone would come in and they would see the chiropractor and then they'd go to leave, I would see them still kind of like have this, the light in their eyes would just be dull. And for me, the kindness I was giving to them was medicinal. But then also, I would say things like, don't forget, magnesium is a natural muscle relaxer. These were just things I knew. And put a heating pack, soak in some Epsom salt. I went on to pursue getting an x ray license. So I'm also a licensed x ray technician. And that built my more so my connection with the clients coming in, because now I'm not just assisting on modalities, but I'm also assisting with taking x-rays, and I'm doing all these things, but there was just this something's missing. I have a calling, and it just kept going back to, I guess what my grandmother had taught me about the foundations of health, hydration, vitamins, supplements. And that felt more like I aligned with that more than anything. And I had the opportunity to one-on-one work with clients. And so I was blessed because the chiropractor I worked for, he also taught me so much about, holistic health and what he had learned going through his education. So that really kind of was like where it was starting.
That's awesome that he was actually able to support you like that. A lot of employers won't.
I
It's
know
just a fact.
he's always been a teacher to me. He taught me things about the body and about like how it operates and how we have an innate intelligence. And so that intrigued me. And I thought, okay, well, if the body has an innate intelligence to heal itself, what are ways we can support it without just completely taking control like pharmaceuticals?
So your business is built around the idea that holistic health should be accessible and affordable. And we both know, because I also believe in holistic health, we both know that oftentimes insurance will not cover those
Yes.
treatments because they're not part of the medical mainstream. So what inspired that mission for you?
Oh, 100% my own personal journey of being sick. It was difficult as an adult to be sick and have to feel like I had to hide that every day, even going to the chiropractor to work. Like, I'm here to help people be healthy. So I'm hiding my illness. But when I would try to reach out to local practitioners, it was like, we need $800 up front. And I think that the reason is because, insurance isn't covering those types of visits. And when they order blood work, when they, for me, like when I go to order blood work, I go to do certain things, there's a higher price. And then also you got to think they have to benefit themselves as a practitioner. They're in this to help people, but also to make a living. And so I don't know. I feel like it's become so mainstream that everyone wants a voice in the holistic world, and we get focused in on we have to make money, and if we only get one client this week, we have to up our prices. Whereas for me, it was this shouldn't be a luxury. Everybody should have access to someone who is their practitioner, who is advocating and guiding them, and it should be affordable and accessible. And even being raised by a single mother, I knew that this was something, starting my business, this was something she would feel out of reach. When I was a kid, raising me as a single mother, my mother would have never taken her health into her own hands or even taken me to someone holistic because of the pricing. And I kept that in mind.
So like I said, I read your book and it was kind of I had heard of alpha gal, but I had no idea what it was. It was just like, yeah, it's the new latest trendy illness. Everybody seems to have alpha gal these days. Okay. That is exactly what I thought. Um,
Yeah.
so wrong. So what inspired you to write it? The alpha gal with alpha gal syndrome. What inspired you to write that?
Oh, wow. Well, so in 2018, I started writing my biography, like my memoir. And the thing is it was a personal story, and this is before I knew I had alpha gal syndrome, and it was my in depth on childhood up to that moment. But I kept feeling like something was missing, and I wasn't ready to actually write the book. There was more that needed to be in there, but I didn't know what. And it was also hard to be vulnerable and open about some of the things that happened in my life. So this year, I made it a goal that I was going to publish that book. And in the process of writing it and now having the diagnosis of alpha gal syndrome, I decided to take this portion of the alpha gal syndrome out of that book and make it its own book because there is such a rapid rate of people being diagnosed with alpha gal syndrome at this moment. And it was like, this is a story and it's a short read. That's the biggest thing. It's a short read And it's something that even if you don't have alpha gal syndrome, I feel like if you have a chronic illness or know someone who has a chronic illness, you can relate to it. And that's with opening Soul Glow Guru and with the rapid, increase of alpha gal syndrome. It really felt like it was a necessary thing to share my story on that.
So for those who aren't familiar, like I said, I had no idea what it was other than it seemed like everybody was getting it lately.
Yeah.
What exactly is alpha gal syndrome?
Okay, so it's known as a red meat allergy, but I'm allergic to all mammal products. And the thing is right now it's a fairly new discovery. It was discovered in 2009. It's an allergy to a sugar molecule that's found in mammals. And so I am allergic to all mammal products. And I touch in the book on the fact that locally in this area, in the region we're in, Northwest Arkansas, most people get alpha gal syndrome through the Lone Star tick. I, however, did not grow up in this region, and I have met other people who do not remember or recall ever having a tick bite. And so there's, to me, other ways to get alpha gal syndrome, and I'm hoping that people will dig into that more and try to do their own research, or even local medical scientists that are studying this will find more answers. And but alpha gal syndrome is an allergy to all mammal products.
Wow. So how the heck do you live with that? I mean, that's like half your diet gone or more.
It It is. It was, I will say this, it was switching the diet. People said, "Oh, that's the gotta be the worst thing. You can't eat steak anymore." And that's what it's known for, is being allergic to red meat. And you tell an American they can't eat red meat anymore. They can't have their steak. No, the diet was easier than I thought it would be, transitioning into that, only because once I started to feel better, and you have to understand, I've been sick since I was at least 10 years old. Um, so to be sick for that long, feeling better and feeling a way that I don't remember ever feeling was worth it. And there were resources that I talk about in the book. There's apps, there's different things you can do to lessen the symptoms. I personally find the diet was easier than I thought it would be. I can only eat lean meat like chicken, turkey, duck, and I do have to cut out dairy products, or not just dairy. Like, I couldn't convert to goat's milk, for example. It's still a mammal product. That was one of the hardest confusions. People thought it's only a red meat allergy, and they also thought, um, well, just get goat's milk instead of, and would have to explain, like, no, I can't have any mammal products. Or they would think gluten items would affect me. So there's still a lot of mystery around what you can and can't have in people who just don't know.
So you have been through a lot, both medically and emotionally. What was the moment where you said this all needs to become a book?
Yeah, it definitely was at the peak of getting better. Once I started to feel better, and I just genuinely, and I was graduating from, so I'm a holistic health practitioner, and because of my chiropractic background and because of my education and because I was already a licensed x-ray technician, I was allowed to take a placement test into a program, and to be a naturopath. And I completed it in a shorter time. And so I was approaching graduation at the same time of, I had just lost 85 pounds. I was feeling the best I'd ever felt. And it was simply by learning I had alpha gal syndrome and changing my diet. And I thought, so many people need to hear this story. And then in I had a woman who had just gotten adjusted by the chiropractor, and she walked up to me and she had talked to him about her digestive issues and wondered if there was anything he could do to help, and he said no. And I told her, well, what are your symptoms? Because I was curious and I had lived with it. And she started telling me things. And I said, you need to get tested for alpha gal syndrome. She left. She came back 2 weeks later and said, I ended up having alpha gal syndrome, and your advice has changed my life. And that was the moment I said, I have to share my story because even if they don't have alpha gal syndrome, they need to be food allergy tested if they're having digestive issues. Like IBS is a symptom, not a diagnosis. Don't settle for that.
I can attest all too well about the impact food allergies can have. I'm not going to get into it here, but yeah, not me personally, but family members who yeah,
Yeah,
you would not believe the havoc of just a simple food allergy can wreak on your health. It's crazy.
it is. It is. And it's even if it's not a big one, that's the biggest thing is people think, oh, because I'm not going into anaphylactic, I'm fine. No, if you are having a small reaction every day and it's building up and it's causing digestive discomfort or you have chronic fatigue, you're tired all the time, that's not a normal thing. And that was one of my symptoms. And I would complain about being tired all the time. And I remember being told, you're a new mom, well, you're a mom, well, you're stressed. It was constantly, you're stressed, you're a mom. That's why you're tired. Never, oh, well, let's look into this. You might have a food allergy. That was never questioned.
Writing about your own body and trauma and healing is it's vulnerable. So what was the hardest part of that to put into words?
Um, I would have to say the hardest part was talking about my childhood in the book. You know, I was a very sick child, and people just didn't know about alpha gal syndrome. They didn't know about the potential of me having a food allergy. And it was hard to relive a time in my life where I just was the most depressed and unhappy. That was hard.
I can imagine. And then to put it out there for everybody else to read. I don't know that.
Yeah, and
I don't know if I could do it.
and when you share a story and you're so honest, the last thing you want to do is insult anyone else, especially the people who, you are raised by, the people that you love, your friends, your family members, your coworkers. There were times where I felt everybody looked at me as though I was a burden or as that I just was seeking attention. And to relive that, those hurtful lies, I had to really go through it and go, those were lies that they believed. And you don't have to feel the burden of those or the weight of it because you have a diagnosis now and you knew all along something was wrong and you didn't give up on yourself. That's what pushed me through that.
Well, I learned a lot about the disease going through the book. Like, there was a lot of, well, I didn't know anything about alpha gal syndrome. So, what's something that you think other readers might learn from your book that most people just don't understand about alpha gal syndrome?
Absolutely. The most common misconception, number one, is that you're only allergic to red meat and or that it goes away. Or and I go, well, I've had it since I was about 10 and it's not gone away yet. And I was, yeah, I'm like, it's not gone away. And I've had my levels retested through blood work. I'm still very allergic. The last time I had exposure, even just I almost had to go to the hospital. I refuse. I'm like, no, I'm not doing the EpiPen. I'm not going to the hospital. I will push through. I know my limits, but it's a real allergy. And I think people think it only upsets your stomach. That's not the case either. And I think that people are unaware that I can't have jello, I can't have regular marshmallows because those are made with collagen. I can't have regular collagen pills, and I can't take regular, like, capsules from a prescription or just vitamin-wise because they are made with that collagen. Sometimes if I go buy turkey jerky, I have to scan it because it's wrapped in beef collagen or beef, casing, and it's turkey jerky that they're wrapping in beef casing, so I have to be very cautious.
I never thought about Jello and marshmallows. That's, I
See?
mean,
You wouldn't, so that's the misconception that I think is the most that I see all the time. They're like, "Oh, you just can't have red meat. You can't have steak." Or I was told once, "It's only hooved animals." I'm like, "No, it's all mammals. You just
that's
can't."
just that just kind of boggles my mind because I understand after reading the book, I understand it's like no mammal products, but the things that are out there that have mammal products in them that we don't think about. I mean, it's Jello. Who thinks about Jello? But it does now that you mention it. It does. So
Yep.
no,
And it's
and
even, like, gelatin candies were the hardest to give up. Oh, I loved anything like those nerd clusters, like any gelatin candy I loved so much. So I can have vegan. I try to avoid the things that are advertised as vegan because they're so overly processed. But if I really want something, I'm a human. I'm gonna go for the vegan at least. And it's not the same once you've been used to certain foods and candies, it's not the same, but you do adjust.
marshmallows. What's in marshmallow? Marshmallows are just spun sugar, are they not? What's in marshmallows? It
No, if you can make your own marshmallows, you can make them in a vegan way, but they actually make the marshmallows with so it comes from the bones of animals, that gelatin. And so
huh,
that's why. Yep,
I had no
yep.
idea. I
I
had no
know, isn't that
idea.
wild?
Oh my goodness. I pity you. I feel bad. Okay. I feel bad.
I'm
You
okay.
are
I'm doing okay.
I would starve to death. Okay. I confess, I
It
would starve to death.
The hardest part was giving up cheese. I mean,
Oh my
even to this
gosh.
day, like, I love nachos, so I have to really, like, yeah, yeah. I will every now and I will say this, my reaction and that's the thing too is people don't know, is everyone's alpha gal syndrome is slightly different. And so, it's in the book, but to share a little snippet of this, I got diagnosed with alpha gal syndrome, and 2 of my daughters also have it. So we have a household of people who just can't have mammal products. I was just saying I got lucky that not lucky, but it's been helpful that I'm not the only one in the house that requires this special diet. My 2 of my daughters also have it, and it makes it easier because I have to cook family meals that, you know, go for all of us. And I've found creative ways to cook chicken.
I like chicken. Chicken's good. But I do like
Good.
my steak. Okay. But I do like my steak. So your 2 daughters have it also? How is that from a tick bite as well, or is that
So they actually one okay, so one daughter for sure, she was born sick. Um, and I had alpha gal way before I ever was pregnant or had children. The 13-year-old, she was sick as a baby and she had a lot of digestive issues. I took her to the pediatrician multiple times and he was onto something. He said he didn't feel like she could break down protein in cow's milk, but he was looking at it as a dairy allergy, not or like a cow's milk allergy, like just allergic to cow protein. He wasn't looking at it as alpha gal syndrome because they barely knew anything about it and they didn't have children being tested for it. And that's the other thing is a lot more people are being diagnosed because we're learning more about it and more people are being tested. For me, I don't recall ever getting it, a tick bite as a kid. I do know when I started getting sick, and I remember, what might have triggered it, and I talk about that a little bit, and then my daughter, who's 13 now, she was very sick as a baby, and she got diagnosed before me. It was her diagnosis that made me think, "Maybe I have it too?" We spent years going to different children's hospitals as well for her, and it was like that's the hardest part of the book is sharing her journey a little bit, and I tried not to speak too much on her story because it's hers, but as a mother, knowing how sick I was and then having to be a witness to a child sick, she was 10 and she weighed maybe 48 pounds, and doctors couldn't give me answers. And out of the blue, she wanted to go vegan, and it changed our lives. It was her that catapulted us finding out what was going on.
Well, good. That's quite a journey, but at least finally got answers with the, so
And my other daughter who has it, her symptoms were pretty subtle and they were different. And it's different with every person who has alpha gal syndrome. So like symptoms could be migraines, it could be a rash, it could be low blood pressure, passing out. It and so they were different, but they were similar between all three of us. And so my youngest daughter, who was diagnosed like way after me and my other daughter, it was more subtle. And what triggered me to get her diagnosed was the continuous headaches that just didn't make sense.
I'm listening to you describe what the symptoms, and I'm sitting here thinking, I know a lot of people.
Yes.
I know a lot of
And
people.
we're in an area where there is a bunch of Lone Star ticks. And so regardless if I believe I know my story, I just don't believe it was from a tick. I think there's other ways, but I do know that that is the number one way to get it. And we're in an area where I believe everyone who has digestive issues or chronic headaches, chronic fatigue should be getting tested for it and food allergies in general. Because I did have a client come in, she met the criteria of a person who had food allergies, and I recommended her doing both tests. They're two different blood panels, and it come back she was allergic to corn. Corn is in everything. I mean, it is because
Everything.
yes, corn syrup. So, I think that it goes hand in hand. If you have digestive issues, chronic fatigue, you just need food allergy in general, but don't stop there. Request the alpha gal panel because they're two different tests and it's a blood test.
So where do you get this done? Can you just go to your doctor and ask, or?
Yes, you absolutely can. You can go to your PCP and you can tell them, I want a food allergy blood test and I want the alpha gal syndrome um, panel. And they can request that. They don't have to send you to a specialist. Um, I say that the blood panel is the best way to do it versus going to an allergist and having all the things done to your back. And I think just stick with going to the PCP.
I'm going to be recommending this to a few people I know because they're always complaining about how tired they are and how much they're constantly complaining about how upset their stomach is and their headaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You might have just saved a few people because I'm going to be sharing this with
Good.
them and say, go to the
That's
doctor,
that's
get a food
exactly what
allergy
I'm
test.
hoping for. That's exactly what I'm hoping for is that this changes people's lives the way my life has been changed. I have benefited from having this from knowing, just to know what's going on with your body. I mean, it's 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 a magnificent gift to be able to know what your specific body needs are.
So you often talk about the process versus the promise. What exactly does that mean?
You know, that's a good question because yeah, I think about that a lot, especially the season that I'm in with being an entrepreneur and starting my own business. There were things that I've opened my eyes to and been faced with and challenges. Just we all experience challenges, but these were new challenges. And the uncomfortability of sitting in something that is not the finished product, right? It's the promise is the goal. It's what you visualize, it's the perfect outcome, okay? And going through the process is it will test you. How bad do you want to reach the promise? Do you really want to keep pushing forward for this? Are you on the right path? There's so many questions that are going to come into play because you're going to want to give up. But in reality, the promise is not going to happen without the process. The process is what really truly helps mold you into being able to receive that promise. Um, and it's messy. It's messy. It's again, it's uncomfortable. People want to show up and they want to look like they have it all figured out and they know everything. And even as a professional, it's like I have a part to play, right? While I'm going through this process. But in reality, I think most people want to see that you're human. They want you to have it figured out, but the process is what's building you up to be able to receive that promise and to give that promise to others. You know, that this is where you find out who you are, what you're capable of.
So for someone who's maybe listening and feels stuck in their process, what would
Mm.
you want them to know?
You know, you're never stuck. We can feel that way and trick ourselves into believing that, but you absolutely are not stuck. Sometimes it hurts. I will say this for my own personal process. I remember at one point feeling like I was standing in a room full of broken glass. And it didn't matter if I walked that way, if I walked that way, or if I walked forward, it was going to hurt. And when you're in a situation where you feel like you're stuck in place and you're avoiding the pain, it's never going to change. So I would recommend they look at what they're avoiding, they would face it head on and just move forward, move right through it, right past it, keep going, don't look back. And then you're going to find there's going to reach a point to where you go, I'm out of that room. I'm out of the room. There's not broken glass underneath my feet.
It's a very it's a really good analogy. I'm trying to find the word, but yeah, that pretty well sums it up. You're either it's going to hurt no matter what you do, so
Yeah.
you might as well move forward. You can't sit there,
Yeah.
you can't stand still forever.
You
You might
can't,
as
and you
well
can't
just
turn around. You can't keep going back because you already know what that's like. And again, if the glass is all around you, it's hurting in every direction.
so yeah, that actually is a very good analogy. If you're gonna if it's gonna hurt no matter what, you might as well move forward and try to get through it. I like that. That's never quite heard it put that way before, but it really makes sense.
Yeah, um, that's my philosophy that I've been living my life. I've gone through a lot in this life. I have.
Well, it's a good one because it makes sense. I mean, it's something you can visualize. I mean, you hear all of the, you just need to keep going, and you just need to, but this is something you can visualize. You're like, and I'm big on visualization. I'm a visual learner, so I'm really big on visualization. So, I'm sitting here, I'm standing in a field surrounded by glass. It's like no matter what direction I go, I'm going to get hurt. I might as well go forward.
Might as
Okay,
well go
what the
forward.
heck?
Yeah,
I mean, if it's going to hurt no matter what, you might as well move forward.
absolutely. And again, I've found in every situation that I've been faced with is when I've lived my life based off that, no matter what it's gonna hurt, I gotta move forward. I always I always end up on the other end that's the best side. And I always end up going, I'm so thankful I moved forward. I'm so thankful because it's more than a mental or spiritual change that happens. Like you can see it physically in your life when you do that. When you choose to just move forward, things start showing up the way you want it to.
So how did Alpha Gal change your identity? And how did it shape who you are now? I'm sure it played a big role.
Oh, yeah. I would say when I was a kid, it shaped the identity of a sick child. And as a teenager, I was that sick girl. As an adult and learning about the alpha gal syndrome and being diagnosed, and I think really showing people, you know, this wasn't the end. It was something I could easily change my diet on. I went through the battles of it. And I think the identity that shows up is this is someone who pushes through. I would go to work sick. I would throw my guts up. True story. I would wake up, I would work out, I was trying to lose weight. I was 200 plus pounds. This is before knowing I had alpha gal syndrome. And I would tell doctors I was sick. They did not listen because I would say I'm throwing up every morning. So I was very much like this sick person. And then again, just flipping that switch and changing my diet, I lost weight. It just started happening. I felt better than I had in years. And I believe my identity is someone who wants to help raise awareness, wants to educate, and wants other people to feel their best. It truly put me in a holistic practitioner mindset and identity. It really boosted it.
So what would you say has been like the most empowering moment of this entire journey?
The most empowering thing is when I share my story and then I have someone else go, that sounds kind of like what I'm going through. And I encourage them to go get tested, to go to advocate for their health. And they do, and they come back and they tell me, my doctor listened to me. I told them exactly what you told me to tell them, and they listened. And then I got these answers. That's empowering because I know my story is helping other people, and it does not matter the struggle that I went through as long as I've been able to turn it around and share it with others, and they don't have to suffer the way that I did. That's empowering.
That's awesome because I know. Okay, now I'm hearing something weird. Okay, I guess we're good now. Okay. Ah, today is one of those days apparently. Okay. I don't know. But what you said about, they felt heard, I know that is I hear that a lot. I mean, I've been there myself with traditional healthcare systems, both with myself and with family members, that we just don't feel like doctors are listening to us. What do you want listeners to know about advocating for themselves?
I want to encourage people to please continue to advocate for yourself. It gets tiring. You go to the doctor's appointments hoping you have your list of all the things you want to share with them, only to feel defeated sometimes. I want you to really listen to this. When you go to the doctor, you are not asking for permission. You are telling them what you are experiencing. And it is also not just up to them. They have the knowledge, but they still have to research things just like we do. They don't have all the answers. They have testing equipment available that makes it easier to help find answers, but they have to do the research on, okay, but what tests? Don't quit advocating for yourself. And if you don't feel like that practitioner is listening, whether it's holistic or it's an MD or it's a specialist, ask for a referral, go somewhere else. You are in control. You don't ask for permission. That's not how it works. You're paying them.
So what are some whoa, okay, that's weird. I wanted to know what's some simple, accessible things that people can do to support their own health right now. I mean, especially those who just feel tired and overwhelmed and discouraged, and their doctors aren't listening to them because we're like you said, well, you're a new mom, you're tired, or you're old, so you're tired, or you're what's I hear that all the time. Well, that's just part of aging. And I'm like, no, it's not. Okay. No, it's not. It's not part of
Yeah.
aging. So, what are some things that people can do to support their own health?
I always go back to the foundations um, of what health is built off of because it is affordable, it is accessible. But I will say that most people are going to go, she's she's saying what we all know. But um, when I was at my sickest, the thing I would go do is get um, like IVs. I would go and I would feel so much better afterwards. So I would go and get hydration and I would get some vitamins. That can be a little expensive. So just starting with filtered water in the morning, doing some dry brushing on the skin, which is going to help the lymphatic system trigger the response to go ahead and start detoxing naturally. So getting that filtered water first thing in the morning before anything else, dry brushing or what we call rebounding, where you're jumping on a trampoline in the mornings for about 10-15 minutes. That helps again with getting out toxins. So, keeping hydrated is the most important thing, detoxing naturally, and getting in some vitamin supplements if you do not have a proper nutritional diet. And if you have IBS or you have a lot of digestive issues, then I guarantee you're probably not getting all your proper nutrition, even if you're eating healthy. If you have IBS and you're taking stuff in, you're not absorbing it the way that you should. So I highly recommend any multivitamin that you feel comfortable with. Do your own research. I would go to a wellness place like we have locally, Cooks or Aikens. They make sure that it comes from reputable sources, and so I would trust those types of products.
Okay. When you look back at everything that you've come through, what do you wish what do you know now that you wish you knew before? What
Oh, this is, I think about this all the time, and I look at all the times I would eat food and get sick, and wish I knew that I had a food allergy. I wish I could give my childhood back to me, and I also sometimes wish that I knew that I was in control of my own health and that I had the ability to advocate and that I didn't need permission because I just didn't know that. I really looked at doctors as an authority figure over my life.
okay. Good. Good grief. What do you hope readers feel after finishing your book? I know what I like I said, I had no idea what alpha gal syndrome was. I thought it was the latest hot trendy thing, back in the my back in the when my kids were growing up, it was like Lyme disease. And I'm not putting anybody down that has Lyme disease because I've
Yeah.
also learned a lot since then that Lyme disease is a real thing. But back then it was like, oh, everybody's getting Lyme disease, okay? And now it's like everybody's getting
Yep.
alpha gal. That's kind of how I felt. And after I read your book, I felt I felt awful. Okay. I felt awful for being so judgmental because it's like, this is a real thing. This is like the Lyme disease of its era. Nobody believed that Lyme disease was real. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, it is. And I kind of feel the same way about alpha gal. It's like nobody really takes it seriously, but it really, after reading your book, is like, this is a real thing. These people struggle. This is awful. So what do you hope readers feel after finishing your book?
I really love that you shared that perspective because that wasn't a perspective I even considered. That people would read it and go, I didn't even believe it was a real thing. But there are so many people. If anything, I hope people read it and they find it relatable because I feel like we've all had some type of a health struggle. Some people have not reached out to the medical field at all in regards to it. They just suffer and say, I'll be fine and I push through. But I hope that people read it and they go, this is very relatable. And it encourages them to want to learn more about their own body and their own health, because I truly believe not one shoe fits all when it comes to health and when it comes to people and how people are going to thrive and glow their brightest.
Yeah, I know probably feel or I probably sound like an awful person for saying that, but I
No,
came up,
you don't.
I grew up during the chronic fatigue syndrome thing, which we discovered was a real thing. And then, like I said, the Lyme disease, when everybody was dismissive of Lyme disease, and we discovered it's a real thing. And now it's like, okay, alpha gal is out there, and you hear the same thing. Oh yeah, okay, it's a real thing. So
It's a real thing. It is. But I love that you gave that perspective, and I don't think that it makes you bad for saying it. I think like that is a real perspective people have right now just simply because no one's talking about it. We're really not. It's you hear about it and then you go, "What is that?" And that's it. And then you go, "Well, meat allergy, that would never happen to me." And we get locked into that's all we know about it is it's a red meat allergy. And I've even heard that people think you can only get it if you're an adult. And I go, I have 2 daughters who have it, and I've had several children that I've helped their parents go get tested, and their kids have it. So, it's, I like that you shared your perspective.
hopefully we'll not get the nasty comments on But
I
I'm
don't think
serious.
so.
I'm telling you I'm telling you how a lot of and I've dealt with it because we have we have dealt with Lyme disease in my own family for years. No one would listen to the fact that, she's my one of my daughters has Lyme disease, had it for a very long time before they even discovered that she had it because nobody took her illness seriously. And it was like, what do I have to do to get you people to listen? I was furious when we finally
But
got the
you
Lyme
knew.
disease test. Yeah, I know. And I mean, I actually had to go ask. I had to go ask because somebody caught me in one of those days. I don't normally share a lot about my own personal life, but somebody caught me on the wrong day and asked how I was doing, and I just like, whoa, okay, you want to know how I'm doing? Here you go. Whoop. But it's
Here
it's
it
like I
is.
was led because as soon as I was done, she just looked at me and she goes, "Oh my gosh, she sounds like she has Lyme disease. She knows my sister has it, and she sounds just like my sister. You need to go have her tested." So I called the doctor that had been treating her and I was like, "Did you test her for Lyme disease?" And he's like, "No, why would I do that? You live in town." I was like, "What?" Okay. What?
What?
I know.
Oh
I
my
was like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I want a Lyme disease test and I want it like now." And sure enough, she'd had it for so long that the damage that was done to her body from having undiagnosed Lyme disease for so long, that's what really kind of started my whole journey on holistic health. It was like mainstream medicine isn't going to help us. We've already seen that because it's like, oh, why would I test for that? You guys live in town. Like we don't have ticks in town. They stop at the city limits and
and
go, it's just I don't
and
know.
the way that MDs act as though I will say this, in the medical profession, they don't talk so much about how you can have um, like Lyme disease. I used to think that you got it, you took antibiotics, and then it was done, and that it wasn't something that could have um, cofactors, or that it could go on and on and on and need extensive care. Like I had no idea either until I went through my program to learn more about holistic health.
She was still in high school and just always in pain. And they sent her to an orthopedist and he did x-rays and when she was done, he looked at me and she goes, "She has the spine of a 40-year-old woman from the Lyme disease damage."
I have chills all over my body. That's
And
terrible.
she wasn't even out of high school yet. And she already had her spine was I was 40. And so I knew exactly what he was talking about because that's when you start
Yeah.
feeling the aches and pains and yeah, so at not even graduated from high school she already had the spinal column of a 40-year-old woman just from the damage because no one would listen and try to find out what was wrong.
Wow.
Oh, I was so mad. I was furious. So yeah, I
And
kind of get
and
it.
I will go back to that love, from a mother, because that was my experience. I was sick, but I kind of put myself off in getting myself taken care of. I just accepted I was sick. But when it came to my daughter being sick and to witness it, and I remember taking her to a doctor and them going, "Well, she's petite for her size. She's a petite person. She should not be this skinny." I could see her bones, and she was very, very ill. She was going into anaphylaxis, and we did not know it. And I just look at that and go, that drive, if I had never got her diagnosed first, I probably wouldn't have questioned my health again and got diagnosed. It was my love for my daughter that drove me to find answers. So I can relate to that.
Medical profession, I hope you're listening because a lot of us are getting really tired. Okay. We're
And it,
getting so tired of the pat answers.
yes, and the thing is too is, I think that in the medical profession they're rushed. There's too much rushing, and that's the I will say the benefit I have of being a holistic practitioner is I can take more time with my clients, but then also that all I think is what triggers us raising our rates, because it's, oh, well, we need more time and more things to figure out. But I definitely think that there are medical professionals that do care, they get in it for the right reasons, but then the pharmaceutical companies put so much pressure on them and the rest of the world. And not, I will say this, everything has a pro and a con. And so I know that there's a time and a place for an MD, and I know there's a time and a place for holistic health. And I believe that they are starting to come more together. And I visualize a future where when you go to an MD, it is holistic health and not just this, let's get you on this blood pressure medication, you know?
I agree. I agree. There are absolutely, I will never tell anyone not to go to the doctor. I had cancer. I had cancer. If I hadn't gone to the doctor, I'd be dead now, plain and simple.
Plain and
All the
simple.
holistic health in the world was not going to help me. I had cancer. But I've also been to where I know they were giving me medication that I absolutely positively did not need.
Yeah.
And I knew what the side effects were going to be if I took it. And I was like, I am not taking this because, and I actually had to fight with one. I actually had one doctor tell me that he wrote in my medical records that I was argumentative and refused treatment. And I was like, well, yeah, because I
Yeah.
don't need your narcotics. Okay. I don't need your narcotics for my back. I just need, I finally convinced him to prescribe physical therapy. So I went to physical therapy for a month and I was fine. That's all I needed. But he was
Yeah.
hell bent on he was going to give me these narcotics, and I was like, I'm not taking these, okay? I'm not. So,
And you know
and
what? For me, when I went to the doctor and I decided something's going on and maybe I do have alpha gal syndrome. And I asked my MD, "Can you please test me? My daughter just got diagnosed. We have similar symptoms. I really think this is it." She looked at me and she's like, "You've got a lot going on." And she knew my past and she knew that I'd been through some trauma in life. And she's plain as day said, "This is not alpha gal syndrome. It is not a food allergy. You need to take the Prozac I have prescribed to you." I was in her office with an active allergy, had a rash on my chest, and she said, "Yeah, that's a stress rash." Was telling her, "I feel like I'm about to die." And she said, "This is a panic attack." And she did not believe me. And when I told her, I said, "I will take the Prozac if you please just do the blood work." And she called me and said, "You were right." And she called me herself. She said, "You were right. You have alpha gal syndrome, but you still need to take that Prozac." And I was like, "No, because I don't need it. I know the place that I'm at in my life." And it is the food allergy that I'm struggling with. And so I'm thankful that I got answers, but I had to fight myself for that. And I look back and go, that's silly. I should never have had to have begged for someone to just order the damn test.
I know, but anyway. So what's next for you? Personally, professionally, creatively, what's up?
Okay, so I talked earlier about how I was writing my full life story, and taking events in my life and putting it together, and that is going to be published very soon. I don't have a date yet. I'm hoping before Christmas, but that is something I've been working on for a while, and I want it to be perfect because it is a larger book than the Alpha Gal syndrome. So there's that. Just continuing to grow So Glow Guru, in different ways, and sharing my story with Alpha Gal syndrome, and that's kind of like the track that I'm on right now.
Okay, good. And where can people go to connect with you or follow your journey, get your book?
Yeah. Okay. So if they have Facebook, they can find me on Facebook, under Soul Glow Guru. They can also find me on Instagram. The Instagram is at YouGlow Nicole. The book is available on Amazon. However, I'm advertising it on all my platforms. And then my website is it's glowtimenwa.com. And so on the website, you find out more information about the services I offer. If you're interested in finding out more about how you can glow your brightest and be healthier, I am ready to listen and help. So just shoot me a message and I'll take care of you.
And I will put links to all of these in the show notes so everybody can find them easily. So, Nicole, I thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. I know we had some little techie issues, but I appreciate your honesty and the courage it takes to turn something as overwhelming as Alpha Gal. Like after reading it, I cannot imagine. I don't think I could cope. So
Well, thank
sure I
you
would
so
because you
much.
have no choice, but it would be
Yeah,
very
yeah.
difficult.
You can just I did have a friend who said, "I know I probably have it, but I don't wanna know because I just wanna continue to suffer for now." And I said, "To each their own." I get it. Steak was that important, and I don't blame them. I get it. So,
Well, I'm sure your story is going to help so many people. I mean, seriously, feel so many people are going to feel less alone because they may be struggling with this themselves and they're like, wow, there's somebody else and they may not know what it is. And now there's
yeah,
suddenly somebody out there telling them, I have this thing, I'm just like you and I found out that I have this thing and maybe you have it too. So maybe you should go be tested. So I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are just going to feel more empowered and more capable of advocating for themselves. So,
absolutely.
to everyone listening, if you're one of those people, if Nicole's message resonated with you, make sure you go grab a copy of her book, The Alpha Gal with Alpha Gal Syndrome. It was eye-opening for me to read it. It really was. And make sure you connect with her through Soul Glow Guru. She's proof that even the hardest chapters of our story, there's light that we can grow into and
Absolutely.
light that we can pass on. So, and if today's episode inspired you or encouraged you or made you feel seen, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future conversations. And as always, thank you for being part of the Rebel Tribe, where we rise and rebuild and we reclaim our stories one little voice at a time. So until next time, stay kind and keep showing up for the life that you were meant to live.